Great content isn't random. It's the result of clear focus and smart formatting. We need to start with a focus and then a format of the content. What are we creating content around? What is that topic or driver? And then formats. Is it in a video? Is it a photo carousel? So you pair those two together. That's it.
Welcome to Marketing Happy Hour. I'm Cassie, consultant, podcaster, and your host. Every Thursday, you'll hear episodes packed with insights from brand leaders on an array of topics, from crafting effective marketing strategies and hitting career goals to building leadership skills and launching your own business. Inspired by those unfiltered happy hour combos with peers, this show is all about practical, empowering chats to support your professional journey. So grab your favorite drink and let's get to the episode.
All right, so today is a very special, exciting day. If you are watching, you see that I have some special guests on the screen here, which we'll get into in just a moment. Super stoked for you to get to meet them and hear about their stories and what we're going to talk about today. But the topic we're going to dive into today is systems around content planning. Whether you're a social media manager, you're building emails, whatever it is, just using a system to build your content to make it more seamless, easier. What is that system? We're going to break that down and just brands that we're seeing use the system, but also some other content elements that we're noticing as well, whether it's humor or emotion, or how can you just engage your audience using really intentional strategic content while also tapping into that emotion. But I have two very special guests with me today. It's been a minute since I've had just kind of a roundtable conversation anyways with multiple people here, but Allie, Rob, welcome to the show.
Thanks, Kat.
Thank you so much. Thank you for having us.
Absolutely. I want you both to introduce yourselves and just tell us all about you. We'll do ladies first. So Allie, please introduce yourself. Awesome. And then we'll tee over to Rob as well.
Thanks so much, Cassie, for having me. I'm so glad we get the opportunity to do this in person. I think both of us have collectively made a pretty big effort in the past year to prioritize our professional development. And it's been such a joy to learn alongside you. So thank you for your continued support in that. Professionally, I have over a decade of experience in global marketing and brand strategy creation and execution across a variety of industries, primarily finance, tech, and retail. My experience across these industries has allowed me to stretch into owning different areas of marketing strategy as a result. So I have experience managing projects across multiple marketing platforms and channels like lifecycle, digital, social, out of home, print, and more. Most recently, I was at Tidal, the music streaming service, leading our partner marketing efforts, launching large-scale co-marketing programs to help support both Tidal and the partner brand. And now I am a freelance marketing consultant working with partners on go-to-market strategy and ensuring a consistent brand approach across channels and regions.
Amazing. Rob, tell us all about yourself.
Okay, well, Cassie, once again, thank you so much for having me. And so I will introduce myself as a listener of the podcast. Maybe a couple months ago, I started listening to Cassie as I try to expand my knowledge about marketing. And I just immediately fell in love because the conversations are so warm and so friendly and really just pulls you in and makes everything just really comfortable. I met Cassie at the Digital Summit, which is what we were going to talk about. And I actually asked her what has been in her glass lately. That's how I kind of started things off, because it's really just the iconic question in every podcast. In terms of my background, I am the director of marketing for a telecom company called ITD Cloud. I've been a part of that company for about 2 years now. It's immediately after I graduated college. And so it's a very small business. And so what I'm in charge of is the strategic overall direction of marketing, the branding, and online presence as well. What I also do is I create content on LinkedIn and on TikTok about building your personal brand online and just the importance of it and just putting yourself out there, period. A lot of good things can come out of it. One more thing, I also freelance because I am trying to just learn as much and do as much as possible regarding marketing. I have one client, which I actually got from putting myself out there. So which is why I push it so much.
Yeah, amazing. Well, Rob, you already teed up one of the most important questions we ask on the show. I got to ask you both, what's been in your glass lately, of course. So, Allie, what are you having lately?
So for me, especially as we're leaning into summer, orange wine is my favorite. It's a little different than other wines because it's got the skin contact grapes with it. And I have a bottle of orange wine that is waiting in the fridge for me after this episode. So that is what's been in my glass lately.
You know what? I love that just because of how different it is. I've never heard of orange wine before, and so I think that's just a statement, you know.
But you've got to try it. It's so good. It's so good.
Yeah. What about you, Rob?
I wanted to really think of something that I have been having, and the only thing I can think of is a water.
Hey.
I'm a big water person. Last year, towards the end of the year, if I weren't so disciplined, I would be drinking a caramel frap at Starbucks right now. Probably the largest size there is. Because I'm a simple person, but I'd like to drink in large quantities. Yes.
I love that you said water because we all need reminders to be more hydrated in the Florida heat.
Yes.
This summer has been brutal so far. It's only been like 3 weeks. So.
Yes, especially.
Everybody drink water.
I know. All three of us live in Florida, so I have to mention that. Rob, you're out in Clearwater, right? So you're a little bit. Yeah. So you're on the coast. We're in Central Florida, but it's great out there. So
it is.
Yeah. Got to stay hydrated. Amazing, guys. Well, again, thank you both for being here. Very appreciative. Very excited about this. Rob, as you mentioned, we met at Digital Summit, which it was an amazing conference. I feel like, I'm curious what you guys think, but it was so intimate. It was very geared towards being an open space to network and to meet people. And so just the opportunity to closely connect with each other, but also learn, of course. I'm just curious if you guys have any key points. Just overall, would love to hear your thoughts on the conference too.
Yeah, Rob, I'm curious to hear from you specifically around the conference and why that one kind of stood out to you.
So how this started was I was on my, self-improvement, personal development phase, and I still am. But I found this one influencer. Her name was Courtney Johnson. Courtney Johnson, she talks about personal branding and how you can just make money for yourself online and how much easier it is now than it was in the past. And I was just on her story and I saw that she was on a retreat with some other people within the social media space. So I just wanted to connect with as many of them as possible and follow as many of them as possible so that I can just surround myself in my feed with those kind of people. One of those people went by the name of Mila Holmes, the freelance social media manager. I came across a video where she just kind of had a notebook and she was just talking about everything that she learned from this conference called Digital Summit. And just me being the person who just really wants to learn as much as possible, no brainer, just went to the link. I almost immediately just booked a ticket. That's kind of how I found out and why I went, is because I love digital marketing and I love marketing as a whole. And so just knowing that very successful and creative people are going there, I should definitely go to.
I think you mentioned something important about the conference that at least was really important for me, which was the networking side of it. So yes, you're going to see these incredible speakers, people from companies that we aspire to be at one day, right? Like your Googles and your Disneys and all of these really big, wonderful companies. But I think the networking should not be overlooked as part of that, in being in the same orbit as these people, one that you maybe follow online or maybe that you don't, and getting in these spaces to just make an introduction and put yourself out there to meet them. And so that's awesome to hear, Rob.
Yeah. And so that's another thing. I think another reason why I went was, of course, because of the networking. I heard that Mila was going and I was like, yeah, I'm going to this. But I think because I wanted to meet her and just introduce myself and kind of just learn from her. But what really pushed me over the edge is that I saw that Cassie was going and I was like, now I have to go. And that was the point. I was like, I'm going to book this. And so because I just wanted to meet these people, and there's so many other people there besides Cassie and besides Mila. I mean, Ali, you were there too. There's so many people way older than me with so much more experience going. You can learn something from everybody, especially if you're just starting out and you're going to a place where everybody has some kind of experience, and especially in this space, in the field that you enjoy and you work in. So I would say the networking part is such a huge thing.
That's amazing. And kudos to you, Rob, for investing in yourself with this. And I think to your point too, you said what could come out of this. I think a lot of times we think the ROI of conferences or investments like this will come immediately at the event, and that's not always the case. I mean, I think there's a lot of things that we learn that we can start to implement in the businesses that we're working with right away. However, it's also the months to come, right? Those relationships that you follow up with, or the growth from the strategy that you implemented 3 months ago, for example. And so I think just allowing yourself to be open to, no matter what conference, event, or thing that you're investing in, is there are return turns that are even greater than we imagine right this minute. And maybe it is a relationship that turns into something. Maybe it is a outcome or a partner or something that results from that. But I think that's such a great reminder too. So
Absolutely.
One of the really cool things about Digital Summit was there were your sort of broad keynotes in sort of bigger events with bigger speakers like around, in the morning, in the afternoon, in the evening. But one thing that I really, really liked about Digital Summit was these sort of masterclass sessions, and that's kind of how we talked about framing the topic for today, was actually around this content system. And I felt like the masterclass approach was something I personally had not seen in a conference in a very long time. And I felt like that was a really big draw for me to consider that there was this opportunity about having it be more of an intimate setting with someone that was actually teaching you something that you could go implement versus being talked at. And so that was a really, really strong point of interest for me about this conference as well.
yeah.
I can agree with that for sure. It was definitely very intimate and it was very interactive because the speakers weren't just talking at you, like you said, Ali, but they were just learning about your business so that they can use your business as an example, just help you get started with applying it to your business in the future.
So on that, let's dive into the topic for today. Again, we kind of teed this up at the beginning of the conversation, just around this content planning system. So we all attended a session from Melanie Deziel. She is a writer, a speaker. She's worked with some massive brands, Huffington Post, Creator Kitchen. She's been a columnist for a lot of different amazing publications that we know. And she's, of course, a speaker. So she hosted one of those very masterclass style sessions with us. And essentially, this session was meant to break down a content planning system. So her whole notion and comment to spark off this conversation was that great content isn't random. It's the result of clear focus and smart formatting. So her whole thing was it doesn't have to be overwhelming to create content, whatever that is. And so she said that we need to start with a focus and then a format of the content, or a what are we creating content around? What is that topic or driver? And then format. So how are we formatting it? Is it in an infographic? Is it in a video? Is it a photo carousel? I think it was like 100 different content formats that came out of this, right? It was so clear. I don't know what you guys think, but creating content, whether it's emails, social, etc., can feel very overwhelming. So this idea of her laying out literally, and I could probably link some graphics or examples of this, but laying out, here's 10 different focuses, whether it's the people in your organization, general information about what you do, specific information, history on your brand or organization or industry. You start with one of those and then pick a format, whether it's a photo, an infographic, a video, and that's a piece of content. So you pair those two together, that's it. So I don't know if you guys have any other just strategies or tips that you took away from that, or even just going deeper into how that process worked, but I thought it was awesome.
Yeah. So I think the clarity point resonates with me so much because she says this other thing where, if you have so many ideas with no direction, you're not really going to know where you want to go. There's so many different kinds of content that you can create. It was just like, here you go, here's 100 ideas. Just having 10 focuses and having 10 formats. All you need to do is just pair one focus with one format. Just makes things a lot easier. Or if there's a piece of content that's working and you want to capitalize on it, and so you repurpose it into many other different kinds of content. So from long form to short form, or from a carousel to maybe a podcast even.
Yeah, one area that sparked for me while we were listening to Melanie was this notion around, similar to what you just said, Rob, is taking that one piece of content that does work and then reframing it for different platforms and channels. So part of what I had been working on at Tidal was around the influencer marketing channel and really building that out. And we were working with 4 different influencers and we had 14 pieces of content. And it was all video. And part of what I was tasked with was trying to figure out how we could reshape those 14 pieces of content to put in Tidal's owned channels, but also to put across our partners' channels too, in formats that they preferred in their channels. So there was this interesting conversation between, Tidal and our partners of how does this content fit into your channels? What are the nuggets of information you want to pull out from this 14-minute long form tutorial video into an infographic that you can share that talks a little bit more about how you get started DJing, for example. So I really like the notion that Melanie says that there's this almost creativity that you can sort of express as part of this process with content if you are able to be focused on the what and the how. And that helped a lot, at least for me and my team, in trying to figure out where specifically we were going to put that and lead these conversations with partners as a result.
Kind of piggybacking off of that too is just clarify as well, typically we think, especially with social media management and content that we're creating for brands, we think in content pillars, right? Mm-hmm. We identify what are these different areas of focus that we're going to talk about. And sometimes it takes us kind of a bit of time to identify what those are. Right. We think about all these different nuances of who we're serving and how we want to talk about a brand, but I loved how simple and straightforward and also interchangeable depending on the industry or the area that you're working in, that these can be your content pillars. Sure, there's nuances and subcategories to these, but if you just start here and start to interchange those, that's going to fuel your content system. So going back to it, I just wanted to read off a couple of these different focuses. So again, your focus is that what is that piece of content about? What is that content pillar? So we already talked about people. So whether it's audience profiling or team profiling, the basics, so key terms around your industry, what you're doing, overviews, the details, so going even further into that information, history, background in a topic or your origin story or history of your industry, process, so what can we help our audience do, what are kind of the 3-step frameworks, for example, around something that we're offering, curation, so useful links and resources that we can provide our audience, data, a study, report, audit, or survey, product, so content about what we're providing or our service, so literally promoting what we're doing, right, to the audience, example, so case studies, stories, etc., and then opinions, so sprinkling humanity into the product or into the service. And the interesting thing I want to know is literally one of those is point blank promoting our product or service. Everything else is super value driven, right? So that's something we talk about all the time in marketing, but still offering value to your audience in different ways outside of just look at what I created or look at what I'm doing. Yeah. And then getting creative even with those different messaging points and switching up the way that we're talking about that stuff.
It just goes to show how much it's not really about the product. Of course it is about the product. It goes beyond that. It's the people, it's the culture, it's the history, the background of the company, the people who lead it, the other customers inside of it, and just the community that the brand creates. It's just all of those different aspects build up to a buying decision in a customer. So one of the points is product and the rest is just value driven. Like you said, Cassie, what can you offer besides your product? It's the entire experience, which makes somebody either like the product or not like the product. So yeah, that's just a great point.
I will say too, I think reading off those content categories was great because hopefully it sparked some ideas for some listeners as well. I know it did for me outside of just sort of the process, people, and data. I think there are a lot of really low-hanging fruit, actionable items that I was able to take from that. For example, like pulling testimonials and creating content from testimonials, or, UGC, thinking about leveraging users actually interfacing with the DJ software, like I mentioned. So there were a lot of things that I took from that framework and just kind of built out on my own, just being able to have that clarity. And so I think hopefully listeners will also find some ideas from that too.
Yeah. Absolutely. There's a number of different formats, again, that we were discussing, that you choose a focus, you pair it with a format, that's a piece of content. There's a number of different ones. Rob, even you mentioned podcasting. So audio is a format, right? Writing, so blogging, infographics, timelines, image galleries, quizzes, maps, tools, etc. I'll put a link below in the show notes with these all outlined. So if you want to download that or get that link and just start to visualize this, because I know I'm personally a visual learner, so hearing all of this is awesome, but it's just seeing how these literally pair together and how you can use them. So definitely check that out. But yeah, there's a lot of different ways that this can be used. And again, it's just clear and simple, which is awesome.
Yeah. And Rob, I'm curious, in your personal and professional endeavors now. How do you think you'll use this from a content perspective?
What I noticed was that there are a couple of formats that I don't use, so I just wrote it down immediately. It's so easy to think of the main kinds of content, like blogs, video, audio, photos, but there's quizzes, there's tools, there's maps, there's timelines. How I'm going to apply this and implement this, of course, into ITD Cloud is to take advantage of those more interactive pieces of content like quizzes and maps and things like that. What we do in ITD Cloud is we help businesses maximize their the telecom services, so their business internet, their business telephone, things like that. I think it's just great to have something, maybe a map of where's the best place you can put, your router within your office. Something like that. Expanding beyond just the basic content and going into more interactive is just an approach that I'm definitely going to try and implement as a director of marketing.
Great. I absolutely love it. I know we have just some other things that we want to discuss too in terms of as we're thinking about content approach and strategy, not only these content pillars and formats and things, but what other elements can we include? And these are just things that I think we all have learned just with our experience and also things that we've heard recently from other speakers that we highly recommend considering. Do you have any notes and thoughts on this culture to cart mentality at all? I'm curious what your thoughts are on this.
So I think where this starts in terms of this sort of like culture to cart mentality is the creative. And I think part of, again, as we've been talking about where to actually put that content, we've got to take a couple steps back and actually think about that creative piece too. I think there is a lot of power, and a lot of brands are doing this already as an aside. There's a lot of power in humor and emotion. There are a lot of opportunities to leverage this both B2B and B2C in this mentality, because again, no matter how you're framing this sort of culture to cart, basically taking this opportunity to connect with the audience and then influencing them to purchase or move forward in any sort of funnel, has to start with that creative. And so how do you lean on members of your team, whether it's yourself from a marketing standpoint, or Rob, in your case, where it's a smaller team from like more of a startup mentality, to kind of leverage that creativity to help fuel that humor, that emotion, that influence. And there's this notion of heartstrings loosen purse strings, which I thought was really interesting. And also it makes a lot of sense. I know myself as a consumer, I lean that way, right? If I get an ad for something that I'm emotionally connected to, I'm way more likely to purchase, right? And so you get 40% more brand engagement with that emotional storytelling. So yeah, Rob, I'm curious if you have anything on that either.
I love emotional storytelling. I think my favorite place to see it is in kind of B2B or personal brands, really. People who have founded their own company and are using social media and, of course, their story to bring their customers or their audience along their journey with them, to then just build a connection, build trust between, the person and the audience. I, for one, love going on social media and just hearing about other people's stories. I would say that one person who's really good at it, Lee. Yeah, I think he's just 21. He's straight out of college. And he actually started this series of making 10K a month with his own app or his own course. And then he did a series of going from 10K to 100K. And it's very transparent and it's very relatable. He talks about how he's feeling. Sometimes he's struggling, but also sometimes he shares his wins as well. People can just really take what they're going through and turn that into a story that people can follow. If it's an emotional roller coaster, people are going to hang on, especially because they don't know how things are going to turn out. It's always unexpected. Just posting win after win after win. I mean, people get tired of that. Who just wants to hear about the wins? Like, let's be honest. It's always nice to just hear, the behind the scenes, like what really goes on, because that's what really connects the storyteller to the audience. B2B is kind of like my favorite space to see that in, because it's a little hard to sell SaaS. So you have to use something else like a person and tell a story about how the company was founded and things like that. People love stories. People love connecting with a person rather than a brand.
Cass, I'm curious, are there examples of brands that you think are doing this really well based on more, the emotional side, but also the humor side or the lightheartedness? I think we live in some dark times, so it's helpful to have brands that are able to kind of give us some levity with our content.
Yeah, I mean, I know it's such a cliche example, but even just looking at Disney, for example, you know, the way that they provide this escape to consumers, both online and of course in person during their experiences, and how do they tap into that story, but also the emotion of just creating memories and experience as a family, etc., to engage consumers and keep them coming back more and more. I mean, I even think about my own personal story with the brand, and it started very long ago, and there's part of that nostalgia as well, but also I have a lot of connection to these stories that they're telling in their in-person theme park experiences, and so that for me is a big example. And then I'll say more on the transparency, you know, storytelling side as well. Love the beverage space. So Scout Brisson from Dessois, it is a beverage brand founded by Katy Perry and their other co-founder Morgan. She is the CEO of the company, and she uses her LinkedIn to really be transparent and share her knowledge with other people in a very raw way. For example, she had this post go viral recently on the platform where she shared how much they spent on a trade show, like literally line item by line item, and it did so incredibly well because no one's really ever just point blank like told people this is how much it costs. And she didn't do that to, you know, of course, brag about how much they spent on this experience and look how great this looks, but it was to tell a story, but also to share a lesson and what they learned through that and why they spent that much on the experience and what the ROI is coming out of that. And so I think people really appreciated that level of transparency. So, you know, Rob, to your point, and we already talked about just how can you humanize your brand? How can you find maybe someone who is that spokesperson and is talking to the consumer on behalf of your brand, and really humanizing that experience is very important. And I think that they specifically do that really well.
Yeah, Scout is a great follow, everyone. She's fantastic on LinkedIn.
Yes, yeah. But I'm just curious, you know, as we round out too, guys, do you have any other content strategies or things you would just like to quickly pull out that you've learned in your work, whether it is for social, whether it's for email, whether it's for website content, like literally whatever it is, if you have anything to share there?
Yeah, I think my last sort of strategy that I'll highlight, and this is something that I've tried to practice in my own career, is leverage other teams. I think very often we work in silos in our marketing teams, and we're not really looking outside of those teams for content ideas. I'd really recommend setting up 15 minutes with someone in my example would be editorial, and talking to someone in editorial or in finance even. You may find that there are people on those teams that have really strong content ideas, and they might spur something else for you, a bigger strategy that you can roll into, whether it be for social, for email, for out of home, literally anything. I've really learned that leveraging those relationships and other team members has been incredibly helpful for me, and I've certainly had a lot of great ideas come out of those sort of 15-minute micro sessions where I'm just asking for opinions on what they think we're doing well, what they think we're not doing well, and getting some ideas from that. I think fresh perspective is really important.
That's a good one. So I would say a good content strategy, I mean, AI is such a great tool to use. You know, of course, not on its own. I think that is what I would say the main, or my, you know, content strategy is, or content tip is if you're using AI, to just make sure you're using as much as you as possible and you're involved in it as much as possible. So if you take past ideas and feed it into ChatGPT or whatever you may use and ask, you know, what are some other ideas that can stem from my prior content, or how can I repurpose this in a way that targets, you know, this group of people. You know, make sure that if you are using AI, be sure that you are involved in it as much as possible, and you're working on it as much as AI is working to create the content for you. Because if it spits out something that you don't proofread, then it's just gonna hurt you because it's not human. But two, you don't know where you're really going, and you're not fully connected with your content. So I would say it's a good content tip to, one, use AI, but two, use it wisely and make sure that you are involved in it as much as possible.
Thank you both so much for that. And thank you for being here to share. And again, Digital Summit was great. I'm so glad I got to just spend a couple days with you both and learn alongside you, and Rob meet you for the first time. And of course, hang out with Allie and everything. It was amazing. I have the link to Digital Summit below. They have conferences all over the US, so definitely check that out. Would love for everyone to stay in touch with you both. So if you don't mind, share, where can we connect with you online? I know we love LinkedIn, but anything else you want to share too, please feel free.
Yeah, you can find me on LinkedIn, just Allie Golden. And then on Instagram, my handle is @AllieA.Golden, and would love to connect with anybody, have conversations, coffee chats, whether you're local to Florida or beyond. So please reach out.
Yeah, so I am very active on LinkedIn. Rob Skinner is the name on LinkedIn. And if you want to get a little more personal with me, I don't post everything I post on TikTok on LinkedIn. My handle is @RobSkinner_. Yeah, that's where you can connect with me. I'm also on Instagram as well. My handle is RobSkinner_ there. If you'd love to connect, have a coffee chat, if you need some support or help, any ideas or on anything, I am definitely the person to talk to. So yeah.
Amazing. Well, thank you both again so much. We'll definitely, both of you will be back. Allie and I are chatting quite a bit about another conference that we went to coming up, and Rob, you will definitely be back. So everyone, please stay tuned for those conversations and everything else, and go connect with the two of them, please. They're amazing follows. But yeah, again, thank you guys. Appreciate you being here.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for tuning in to this week's episode. If you enjoyed this conversation, I would love your feedback. And if you're ready to take things to the next level, sign up for my weekly newsletter in the show notes. You'll get weekly career and marketing insights straight to your inbox. And if you have an idea for a future Marketing Happy Hour episode, shoot me an email, hello@marketinghappyhr.com. Thank you again, and I'll see you next Thursday.